I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. All right, let's talk about the light zone and the anti-universe. All right. We are part of a larger vehicle which evolves into the next order of evolution in a pillar of light which establishes a light zone where life within cannot be absorbed into the destructive anti-universe. Interesting, huh? So we're going to use Disney's TVA and some other tools for making her talks very esoteric, the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch, not soteric. But before we do that, let's say hi to some people. Auntie is in here first. She says hi with the peace sign. Peace to you, my favorite auntie. Armando is here, double peace. Adric is here with hashtag PPW for Pivot Point Wednesday. And Adrian is here reminding everyone to hit the like as you come into the space. Inspired Truth, salute to you as well. So this key focuses on divine fire and the alchemy of time. So the full text is available on this channel. I'm not going to read it, but I want to read some highlights for you to hear about. So her talk says, in his explanation of that key, man functions as a thinking membrane between star systems, which govern star orbits of light and the birth of new planetary systems within a river of crystal. Now, he has provided a drawing. On the full text reading, you will see the drawing. It's one of the images. Looks like this. Ooh, there, that's better. Looks like the bookmarks are literally falling out. And it's called Model of Transition Through the Consciousness Time Zone. Interesting. Okay, so a couple more highlights so we get the point of what he's trying to talk about, or at least we're going to try. This transition into new astronomical and consciousness spaces is known as space-time overlap. There are 9 major mechanisms of the physical overlap between different evolutionary worlds. Okay. Once the proper linkages have been completed with the human system, through harmonic intensities of spin coordination, the alignment with a new light zone can take place through intermagneto-hydrodynamic fields, modulating the geophysical time warp areas of the lower structure into new time zones by means of a Leusch pillar of light. Now, every time I hear that phrase, Leusch, this is what I think of. This is, what does Leusch mean? Leusch is a hyperdimensional energy given off by the human soul when traumatized. The archons parasitically feed on it. Think of it as their simulacrum of Kundalini. So when I hear Leusch, I don't think positive things. But he's saying the Leusch creates a pillar of light. But this is energy given off during trauma. So I don't know how I'm feeling about that. The pillar of light is a sanctifying light governing and protecting the actions of spiritual decisions under the most crucial circumstances. It is used for the redemption of the planet by the Adonai Sabaoth. Okay. Oh, Armando says, epic stream with nameless, 10 out of 10. I'm so glad you think so. Compassionate and callous is here. Us. He says, okay, makeup. We see you, Miss Maggie. I have lipstick on today. All right. Thus, the alignment with the pillar is necessary lest the mind be constantly recycled back into the same biological matrix again and again to replay life within old memory patterns of consciousness with the diminishing power of the atom Kadmon. I don't know about you, but all of that sounds confusing. It all sounds confusing. I will say that he created this this other painting here with a bunch of white hands and white or possibly Arabic people. Anyway, it says the transfiguration through the spiritual community of light in the age of the Holy Spirit. Here, the unity of all Abrahamic religions with the native and indigenous peoples prevails. Does this look like all the people to you guys? Yeah, I'm not seeing it, but okay. This is what he says. Hi, Eddie. Thank you for being here. Okay. So let's use Disney's TVA and talk about reset charges. I hope you guys remember reset charges. They don't just erase timelines, okay? They purify them. So similar to Hertog's divine fire, you know, a cosmic force that burns away illusion to reveal some higher truth. Compassionate says not a blonde Arab, though. Yeah. They're all Neanderthals. All right. In alchemy, fire transforms lead into gold. Okay. Among other things and other scientific reactions, you know, fire transforms a lot of things in science. But in alchemy, if we look at, you know, the Philosopher's Stone, if we look at turning lead into gold, this is a metaphor for what they're talking about. Think about like in TVA, Sylvie's rage is like fire, right? And her rage destroys he who remains. He who remains is the lead, right? He's the solid thing at the end of the rainbow, right? The end of the timeline. And that births the multiverse, which is the gold. Okay. So Loki's arc is all about transformation. Okay. So phase one is kind of like the frozen fire. He is burdened with his purpose to kind of like always mess it up, always get caught, you know. He's like ego's static flame, right? It's never changing. It's very static. Kind of like TVA's controlled timeline, you know, it's just very static. It doesn't grow, it doesn't do anything. So phase two is kind of the chaos that ensues, this chaotic wildfire, right? This is Sylvie's rebellion. This is destructive fire. Think about like controlled forest fires, you know, how it cleans the forest floor and like farmers burn their fields, you know, because they get nutrients. So phase three is that sacred fire. So that's Loki rewriting time. That's like this divine fire that Hertog's talking about, which kind of leads into his co-creation, right? Which we've talked about the last couple keys, where Hertog says that we co-create with the divine, but we don't have a choice to not to. Well, our choice is burn, die. Like, it's not a choice that's a choice. So we have all the choices in the world as long as we choose what the divine wants. That's how it's given to us. Okay. Now, I like the way Nietzsche says it better. He says, you must become chaos to give birth to a dancing star. I like to think of fire that way. Or thinking of the phoenix, right? The phoenix has to burn and it dies, right? Like the bird burns and dies. And then the phoenix rises from the ashes. The fire cleanses and transforms and does something positive, right? Oh, compassionate says, I like that. Yeah. So this also makes me think of the alchemy of our identity, like shadow work, right? So think of Loki. He says, I want to rule, right? And that's like his low vibrational self. Like that's the lower Loki, I want to rule. He's led, he's static. That's all he can ever think about is he wants to rule and he wants to be in charge, right? Through the TVA, though, through this whole story and all this chaos and all these things that happen, at the very end, he chooses to serve, which makes him like the master of time, right? He turns to gold. That's his higher self. Inspired Truth says, I guess the interior of a star is pretty chaotic with all that density and fusion. I would assume it is. I don't know a lot about it, but I would assume it is. So somebody else that it made me think of, though, is Heraclitus. Do you guys know who Heraclitus is? Heraclitus said that fire is the primordial substance of reality. Fire. That everything has some element of fire in it. And that is why all things are constantly transforming, is because they have an element of fire. Because fire cannot be controlled and all things change. This is Heraclitus saying this, right? His quote is, no one steps in the same river twice. I love that phrase because you literally could step into a river, pull your foot back and step into the river again, and the river is different. It's not the same water that you just stepped in. And even the sediment on the bottom has moved a little bit. And you don't know what is floating right there, but it is different. It is different than when you first stepped into it. So no one steps into the same river twice. Everything is constantly changing. So sort of like that, it's motivation to say, act while you can, because the chance will pass, right? So if you, everything changes for better or for worse, right? So like when things are bad, we always know this too shall pass, right? Because everything changes. Nothing stays bad forever, right? But the sad part about that is that that's also true of happy things. Happiness doesn't last forever either. And so when we look at what Heraclitus said, it's more like enjoy the moment that's in front of you, take the leap while you can. All we can really manage is the moment that we're in, because the next moment that we're in, even if we think everything's exactly the same, it's not, because everything changes. Oh, Auntie says, I love him. Good. So we use the fire, right? We use the fire. Fire can be the spark of an idea. It can be chaotic destruction, like a wildfire, right? It can be passion that burns inside of you. Think about all the phrases we use when we talk about fire, right? Heraclitus called the divine fire logos, like the rational principle guiding transformation, right? The divine fire is almost a sentient fire. It is the logos, it's the rationality, okay? In psychology, what we resist burns us, okay? What we embrace transforms us. And it can be the same exact thing. Like somebody could say, I'm really nervous. And because they keep thinking they're very nervous, they're having these bodily reactions. They feel weird in their stomach. They feel jittery and shaky and all these things. And they keep saying, I feel nervous because we're trying to resist feeling nervous. But we could have that same exact feeling and say, I'm so excited. It's the same feeling. By the way, nervousness and excitement is the same bodily sensations. So we could say, I'm so excited. And then that nervous energy is motivation to do the thing. right? Because we're so excited. Okay. So, but if we look at Heraclitus, who's saying it's logos, right? He would say, is based on what psychology is saying, that he likes radical acceptance. Okay. Radical acceptance is the divine fire. Radical acceptance is, it is what it is. Radical meaning not like far out, radical dude. It's radical as in the whole thing. Okay. Radical acceptance is just accepting this moment for what it is. It is what it is. And what can I change? What can I not change? And now what do we need to do? Instead of sitting in the moment or sitting in the past and fretting all of those things, you just accept it for what it is. It may be a bummer. Yeah, that's a bummer. And then you just figure out what you need to do. Okay. Because there's things you can control. Non-attachment. Yes, theories of non-attachment, right? It's kind of like when they say, if you don't have any expectations, you won't be disappointed, which is true, And the first time I learned that, I decided that every time I had a birthday, I would expect nothing. So then anytime just anybody said, happy birthday, it felt like such a gift because my expectations were nothing. They're just that it's another day. The sun's going to rise. I'm going to go to work. Certain things are going to happen. It made me very grateful for the positive things. But if I expected somebody to throw me a party and buy me gifts and give me money and blah, 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 I'm just going to be disappointed. So that non-attachment is like that, non-attaching to the outcomes, Compassionate said, attachment is life and life is suffering because of that attachment. Attachment and comparison. I think those are that saying, comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is a biggie. I think attachment is the thing that gives us passion. And without attachment and passion, whether it be to a person, an idea, a thing that you like, it doesn't matter. Attachment and passion, without that, life is boring. So it gives us a little excitement. Okay. So there's things you can control and things you cannot control. Giving up your control, your divine spark, the fire of passion that ignites you, only burns you into smoldering embers. Take control of the things you can take control of. Take control. Guide your life. It's your life. You are the main character. I tell you guys that all the time. And feed your fire, your passion, and what you want to do. Don't be attached to the outcome. Don't be attached to what other people are going to think, because there's always haters, right? There's always haters. It does not matter. Guide your life. Feed your fire. If you don't, somebody else will take it. So that is the lesson this time. Now, I think I went a little bit opposite of what her talk was saying, because he's very much talking about God is the only one who has the divine fire, and we just go along with these higher people, and that it's going to create a pillar of light called Loosh, which is eerily similar to psychic energy that people feed on. So that's a little creepier. I don't necessarily want to go with that one. So we went with Maggie's lessons this time. Okay. Compassionate says, seems like a fine line. It's a fine between the having of a non-attachment mindset and nihilism. No, I think it's easy to fall into nihilism, because here's the thing. You can have non-attachment with a positive mindset, and you can have non-attachment with a negative mindset. And a lot of that has to do with resilience and how much you trust yourself and how willing you are to take risks. If I just have a baseline sense of self that no matter what happens, I'll be okay, then if I don't have any attachment and I don't have to outcomes, I don't have any expectations, then it doesn't necessarily matter what happens, because at the end of the day, my baseline sense of self is that I'm okay. Even when bad crap happens, I'm okay. I'll be okay. I'm okay. Right. And for those of you that follow me, you know that this year um, has had some pretty terrible stuff. In fact, today was not a good day at all. We got death certificates today and found out in excruciating detail cause of death of a 7-year-old little boy. And man, that is hard. I had no expectations to what I was going to see when we went to get the death certificates. But at the end of the day, I have a baseline sense of self that I'm going to be okay. And so that is what keeps me from falling into nihilism. If your baseline sense of self is the world's always out to get me, or I'm always going to fail, or I'm destined to lose, or I can never have this, or I can't do this or that, then when things happen, it only sets to confirm those things. So you may not have an attachment to the outcome, but the baseline sense of self sets the tone for whatever the outcome is. Hopefully I'm making sense. I am to me. Oh, Compassionate says, right. Okay. So a lot of it has to do with mindset. Because you can go either way. And you know what? No matter what you think about yourself, you're right. And I want you to think about that. No matter what you think about yourself, you're right. And you can change your mind and you'll still be right. Whatever you think about yourself, that's who you are. It was kind of a short show tonight, but again, it's not been a great day. I don't feel that great. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. We went through that key. We'll have another key next Wednesday. I super duper hope that everybody can join me this Sunday for a show about Hitler's love of the Aryan Neanderthals. And this is where I really want to talk about the intersection between the Goths and the Khazarians, because this is where it happens. And everything that happened from the time Hitler was chosen to be who he became all set the stage for the Israeli New World Order. So I really hope you guys can be there. Maybe the last show they ever let me do on this channel. So you might as well enjoy it. So I'm going to do that this Sunday. I hope you guys can be there. If not, I'll see you next Wednesday for another key. Oh, and thank you, Compassionate. I will feel better. I will be fine. And yes, and good Lord is right, because I'm going there. And you know me, I'm going to bring receipts. So I hope to see you guys there. Until then, I'm going to show you a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together.